Hi everybody, this is Melanie Shapiro. I'm an immigration lawyer in Massachusetts. Hope everybody had a good weekend. So today I'm going to be talking about what's going on in Afghanistan. So if you have any questions about what's going on in Afghanistan or what you can do to help, let me know. I don't know everything about it, but I've spent the weekend working on a case for a woman from Afghanistan. She's a doctor there, she's a feminist, and I'm working with a bunch of people in several different countries to try and figure out a way to get her out of Afghanistan safely. Um, so we are working with people from Germany, from Norway, from India, from the UK to try and find a safe place and try to get this woman out of Afghanistan. The situation right now is really dire and dangerous. We know that she's about 15 minutes away from the Kabul airport, and it's very difficult to get there. There's a lot of Taliban checkpoints, and it's just really crowded and hard. So I have done a number of things trying to help her to get evacuated by the Americans. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have tried to do. So we have done something called humanitarian parole. I was working on doing that over the weekend. So basically, humanitarian parole is asking the US government to allow her to come into the United States temporarily. We are requesting this as an emergency. So this morning I was at FedEx sending that out overnight. So keep everybody posted on that, but hopefully that will help. We also have been in touch with Senator Markey's office, and Tristan at Senator Markey's office has been really helpful. We were able to get her information out to the Department of State task force on the Afghan situation. And we also were able to register her on an evacuation list with an organization called Human Rights First. Um, and we tried to do a referral for her for the second priority for the U.S. Refugee Assistance Program that is for people who've worked in, for example, she's done some work as a journalist. So she meets the second preference category. So those are all the things that we're trying to do for her. So hopefully we'll have good news that she gets evacuated anywhere out of Afghanistan soon. We also have a gay man from Afghanistan that we're trying to get out. So hopefully getting that humanitarian parole request out today. Um, so we're working really hard over here to try and help as many Afghanis as possible. And yeah, so I'm just going to go over some of the stuff that's going on with this situation. So the Biden administration had initially set a deadline for August 31st to try and get as many people, U.S. citizens and at-risk Afghanis out of there, but we don't know if he might be extending that deadline. I know I heard on NPR this morning that there was some gunshots yesterday around the airport. So I don't know. I haven't looked at the news since then, but it sounds like things might be getting more dangerous. So I'm really hopeful that as many people can get out of Afghanistan as possible. So the things that are available right now to Afghanis trying to get out, there's a special immigrant visa, which is available for Afghanis who have been employed by the US government or by ISAF, which is the International Security Assistance Federation, I think. And and also can show that their life is in danger, they have extenuating circumstances. So those are kind of the top of the list, and that's probably the most difficult to show. Then the second option is the first preference, first priority referrals for U.S. Refugee and Assistance Program. That also seems to be very difficult, and there isn't too much information about that right now. The other category that seems to be more popular or with more information is the second preference category. And so that's the one I was mentioning before, the second priority designation program for the U.S. Refugee and Assist Admissions Program. And that's for Afghan nationals that the Department of State has designated um, by virtue of their circumstances that they need resettlement. And it seems like this is really referring to certain individuals. One of the classifications is journalists. And so that's the program that I was looking for. We have, so this is for Afghans who don't meet the minimum time in service for special immigrant visas, but who work or worked at any time as employees of contractors, as staff interpreters, translators for the U.S. government, or through any U.S. government funded program, or who were employed in Afghanistan by U.S. NGOs or media organizations. So that media organization category is for the journalists, and because the woman I was talking about has worked as a journalist and was connected to a U.S. institution, she might might qualify for that. But I'm thinking of people who may be local affiliates for larger media organizations like CNN would be an example of someone who might qualify under this P2 category. So the other thing is with this is a special email for Afghan referrals. And so um, there's that email, but I think a lot of people are using the email, so I don't know how effective that is. There's also, like I mentioned, working with congressional liaisons. Every senator or representative's office has a special immigration, pretty much everyone, has a special immigration liaison there to work with the U.S. immigration agencies, so like U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the Department of State, the National Visa Center, and the U.S. embassies abroad. And so we are working with someone at Senator Markey's office who has helped us a lot in the past. And she was able to take the information that we had about our client and pass that on to the U.S. Department of State task force handling the situation in Afghanistan. So that might be something, basically, throw everything you can at the situation and hope something sticks, is the approach that we have here. I spoke with a colleague and she mentioned that there's some people on the ground who are trying to transport people out via the land to Pakistan or other areas. I don't know, how that's going to go given all of the Taliban checkpoints, but there, are reports that a lot of people have been able to get out, which is great. So that's kind of what's going on right now with Afghanistan. So if you have some questions, you can go ahead and send them in now, or if you just have questions generally about immigration, happy to answer those for you live. We have, I have family in Afghanistan. Is there any way I can help them? So one of the things with the humanitarian parole is that they need a financial sponsor for the Form I-134. So that's like the affidavit of support for the humanitarian parole. So if you're able to fill out that form for them and coordinate some of the humanitarian parole requests from this side, that would be really helpful. And then, just keep in touch with them and see how they're doing. So that's a way you can help them. Another question I have is, hello, I have a question. Is it necessary to send a copy of the last I-797C we received for DACA renewal? Yeah, so if you're renewing your DACA, you have to prove that you already have DACA that you can renew. So you can send a copy of your current EAD or employment authorization document to show that you do have DACA right now. If you don't have the I-797, I think that's probably fine because your card already shows that you have DACA. Thanks for your question. So along the lines of DACA, what's going on with DACA right now is that's tied up with an injunction out of Texas. And so no new applications for DACA are being accepted. However, renewals are still being accepted. And I'm hopeful that, the Dream and Promise Act that's kind of tied up with some federal budget appropriations maybe will go through. So we definitely need a more permanent solution for DACA recipients. So hopefully that'll be okay. I have another question. Is it possible to renew DACA while being a stay-at-home mom? I haven't worked since 2019. Yes, I don't see why you couldn't. Um, as long as you have proof that you have DACA, sure, you can renew it. Thank you for your question. Um, go ahead and send in any questions you have. I also want to mention we're doing free consultations, 15-minute consultations in honor of Labor Day, and that's on September 9th. And we still have a few spots available, but it is filling up quickly. We do offer these appointments in person, on Zoom, WhatsApp, whatever, so we can get you in for a consultation no matter where you are. The next question I have is, hi Melanie, I applied for Asylum in 2015 and I'm still waiting for my interview. Do you know if people of 2015 are being interviewed yet? Man, that's a long time to wait, but unfortunately this is really common. I do have some cases still pending from 2015, maybe even 2014. And this is because a change in the policy of how they process the asylum applications. So they changed the policy a couple of years ago to be a last in, first out policy, LIFO. And what that means is that the more recently filed applications are the ones that are being heard first. And the ones that were older are just getting pushed down and further into the black hole of the backlogs. And so those are taking a really long time. So what you can do is you can write a letter to the asylum office and request to be placed on the short list. And the short list is basically like a cancellation list at the doctor's office. You'll get called last minute to see if you can come in for your asylum interview. Normally with asylum cases, you get 21 days notice before your interview. So you agree to waive your 21 days notice to get called off the short list. And that is a way that you can use to try to speed up your case. If you have an absolute emergency, you can request for your case to be expedited. I recently had success with that for a case, and we got called basically the next day because there was an actual emergency. So if you have a true emergency, you can request your case to be expedited. And it's a similar process. You can call the asylum office, but you have to send it in writing too. You can send an email to the asylum office or send a letter to them and explain why your case is an emergency. So that's what you can do about that. I have another question. Are there any new updates on DACA? My case is pending. So if your case is pending, you're fine, but because of the injunction out of Texas, there are no new applications that are being accepted at this time. So that's all the news that I have on DACA, but hopefully we'll get a more permanent solution. I have another question here. I was a USA permanent resident for 41 years since I was 2 years old when my family moved, and I didn't know that I could get deported for getting into trouble with the law. I got deported for dealing cannabis 6 years ago, but I want to move back. How can I do it? So that's tough. So in order to return to the United States after you've been deported, you need to have a waiver, an I-212 waiver for permission to re-enter the United States. And you're also going to need a waiver for the crime as well. So there's a number of things that you can do in that situation. You can also look at post-conviction relief. So this is a situation where you should definitely book a consultation with me so I can look at the criminal history, I can look at your deportation order, and assess whether or not you qualify for a waiver. So if you want to book a consultation with me, you can call the office at 781-461-0100, or you can send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, or WhatsApp, and we can get you scheduled for a consultation either with me or with my associate James. In order to qualify for waivers, you also have to show that there's a hardship. So we would be looking at whether or not you have any U.S. citizen or green card holder family members who are immediate family members, meaning children under 21, a spouse or a parent who has some sort of extenuating circumstances, such as if somebody has cancer and needs you to take care of them, or there are a number of ways that you can find a hardship for one of these waivers. For example, we want a waiver for a mother who has two autistic children. We have one waiver for a woman whose husband has serious mental health issues. So waivers are generally pretty difficult. So you need to assess your situation. The next question I have is, hi Melanie, can you tell me a little bit about adjustment of status? Thank you for your question. So adjustment of status is when you're adjusting your status from whatever it is to lawful permanent resident. So typically with adjustment of status, we do it concurrent with a family petition, or if you can't file it at the same time and you're waiting for your priority date to become current. For example, for special immigrant juvenile status, we often have to wait for a long time for their case to become current. So with that, or with an employment visa, or with any other type of visa, and you're waiting for your priority date to become current, you can file for the I-45 adjustment of status when your priority date is current. So it's a process where generally you have to there's a lot of questions about admissibility to the United States. You have to put in your biographic information. You have to have an affidavit of support for most adjustment of status cases, which means you need the petitioner to fill out a form for you, and you generally have to have a medical exam done with your case. And then when your case is ready, it'll be scheduled for an interview at one of the USCIS field offices. So, and then once you get your case approved, then you get your green card in the mail. So that's the adjustment of status process in a nutshell. The next question I have is, my case is a little different. I got married in 2011 to an American citizen due to some, I came back to my own country. How and what type of visa do I need to get to enter the US again? I do have a copy of my marriage certificate. So the question isn't super clear, but if you are married to a US citizen and you are abroad, you can do an I-130, which is a family petition. And then when that's approved, then you can take your case through consular processing, and where you would have your case transferred to the National Visa Center. You would fill out an immigrant visa application online, the DS-260. And then after that, your case gets transferred to the U.S. Embassy abroad, and you go through the consular processing. When you come back to the United States, you enter as a permanent resident and then receive your green card in the mail. So that's how that would go. The next question I have is, how long does an unmarried over 21 son of a green card holder have to wait to receive their green card if they are even eligible? So a green card holder can only apply for unmarried children over 21. So right now what I'm doing is I'm checking out the visa bulletin. So on the travel.state.gov website, there are visa bulletins on there issued every month. And for this, there's different categories. There are family-sponsored preferences and employment-based preferences. And so I'm looking under the family-sponsored preferences. Unmarried sons and daughters of permanent residents are in the family-based second preference category, F2B. So F2B looks like you're waiting about 6 years for F2B. So yeah, so that's how long it would take. Thanks for your question. So let me know if you have any other questions. I was on here earlier talking about the situation in Afghanistan and some of the cases that we're working on for Afghanis. And if you have any questions about that, please let me know. I'm still continuing to learn about the process. I'm going to a training tomorrow, and hopefully we'll learn more about it there and report back. So I think those are all of the questions that we have for today. I'll give you guys another second. We have a trial on Thursday for an asylum case and cancellation of removal. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that will go well. Rosalva on Facebook is saying, I have a person who's already at 5 years in Mexico after being deported. Can we start the pardon application? Can I do it, or is it better through a lawyer? You should definitely use a lawyer, 100%. The pardon process, the waiver is very complicated. So you should definitely not try to do it by yourself. And you have, so for someone who's been deported, the consequence is they have a 10-year bar. And in order to re-enter the United States, they have to do a waiver for that process. And it might be one waiver, it might be two waivers, depending on the facts of the case. So you should definitely send me a message and we can set you up with a consultation because it is very complicated. So thank you for your question. So for those of you who speak Spanish, we'll be back here Wednesday at 12, miércoles con Melanie a las 12. Tenemos otro programa con la Mega del Radio también cada jueves. So we have a radio program on La Mega Radio on 106.1 FM on Thursday, so you can tune into that too. If you have any questions, go ahead and send them along and I'll answer them in the next live. And otherwise, tune in to our live, send us a message on Facebook or Instagram, check us out on YouTube, and for all the latest immigration news. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.